I'd like to talk a little bit about using shadows in SketchUp. SketchUp does have a shadows tool, and it's mainly designed though for exterior type scenes. For instance, if you were modeling an entire building, it can produce pretty amazing shadows. It's a little more tricky though when we are talking about interiors. And getting shadows for interiors is something that we kind of use a little more selectively. So I'll show you a little bit about what we're going to do and how we're going to create them. There's two ways to access shadows. There is a shadows menu that I have placed up on my at the top of my screen, but also in the default tray there is a window pane here for shadows. You'll notice that it has a time slider and a date slider. My time happens to be set at 1:30 on November 8th, and you can set it to whatever you want. Well, let's turn the shadows on. The shadows go on right here. The show hide shadows, and when I click them on, you'll notice that immediately my scene changes a little bit and my shadows become more visible. Now, what I'm going to use these sliders up here. They're the same sliders that are here, but it's just a little easier for me to access them up here. So as I move through the times of the year, now I'm in July, more or less, and also the times of the day, my shadows can become more or less pronounced. Now again, shadows are great if you are doing an exterior, but I don't think we would want shadows like this on an interior project. First of all, they would never look that way. SketchUp doesn't have the ability to create light sources other than the sun. So our model actually doesn't have a ceiling, right? If it had a ceiling, then this whole interior would be black. It'd be really, really dark. But we purposely removed the ceiling. We don't have a ceiling on this model because we want to be able to see shadows at some point in our model. So what do we want to see shadows for? What good are the shadows going to do for us? Well, again, now I've sort of reset my shadows to where they originally were. The main thing of what I want to do is I'm mainly focused on the furniture. I like to see some shadows and shading under furniture. It grounds your furniture and it gives your furniture weight and gravitas and prevents it from kind of looking like it's floating around in the air. So mainly for that reason, I like to use some shadows. I think there's some shadows here that are around the windows that are pretty cool, and I like that there's a shadow underneath the windowsill here. So that's neat, and we're definitely gonna want those in our model too. This shadow here is actually a shadow of this wall here. And when I go back to my perspective view and turn the shadows on, this is a shadow that we're not going to want to see when we create our final rendering in Photoshop. And so what we will do is we will erase that shadow in Photoshop. Well, we can erase any shadows that we don't really want to see in Photoshop. So that is a little bit about shadows and how we use them in an interiors type project.